Thanks for joining us for another episode of Big Beer Friday. We have some awesome beers we're going to try today. Put them through the Fizzics weight tap systems here, and in the meantime we're going to tell you all about Fizzics, the technology, how it works, a little bit about the microfoam and what it does to enhance the visuals, aroma, mouthfeel, and flavor of beers. And we have a good variety here. We got an IPA, big double IPA, Guinness Antwerpen stout, and also like a winter warmer. So we got some snacks here that can go for a nice pairing. And if any point during the broadcast you want to ask a question in the comments, go ahead and we'll try to answer it for you live. So this is our weight tap. This is the original, the first Fizzics that we came out with. And these are the second generation. You see we have some different color options this time around. It's a lot smaller, completely new redesign. We teamed up with some professionals, Frog Design. We really are happy with the concept and design that they came up with. It makes it really user-friendly as well. It can all be operated with just one hand, super lightweight, only weighs about 3-4 pounds. Super portable. We even have these cool lightweight carrying cases so you can bring them with you. So you enjoy that fresh from the tap flavor anywhere you are. So the idea behind Fizzics is people enjoy draft beer a lot more than the same beer in a can or bottle. But almost like 90% of beer are consumed from the packaged container. So what Fizzics allows you to do is enjoy that fresh from the tap taste like you just got it from the brewery in their tap room, but you can take it from a packaged container wherever you happen to be, in the comfort of your own home. You can be outside. It just runs on batteries, so there's no need to be near a wall outlet. 4 AA batteries go right up in the top here. Take off the cap, pop in the batteries, and you're good to go. It's compatible with 12-ounce bottles all the way up to 25-ounce cans. So we have some different shaped 12-ounce bottles here. They'll all work in your Fizzics weight tap system. If you like to use larger format bottles like 750 milliliters or 22-ounce bombers or growlers like we have here, you can do that. You're just going to want to use the original Fizzics system. All of these are available right now on our website, fizzics.com. Also will be on Amazon. We're in Best Buy, Target, Brookstone. Shortly we'll be in Bed Bath & Beyond and some others. So check out our website to see what retailers we're in and where we'll soon be coming in 2017. So I'll show you in action here. Let's start off with the IPA. It's called Velveteen Rabbit. I think it's 7.5% alcohol. It's an India Pale Ale. Availability is year-round in the Wisconsin and Illinois markets. We got this traded to us from our Milwaukee brand ambassador. Shout out Annie Komoski. Congratulations on your newborn son. We'll toast this one to him. So this beer actually won Milwaukee Magazine's the Great Wisconsin IPA Taste Test. So that's pretty impressive. Big beer state, Wisconsin. And IPA is one of the most popular and most widely brewed of these craft beer styles. So to win the best tasting in Wisconsin is pretty impressive. I have not had this one, so I'm excited to give it a shot. So how does your weight tap work? You just press this latch here and it's going to remove the main cylinder from the base of your weight tap. Got this nice slate gray and brushed gunmetal color here. The bottom parts as well as the faucet have nice metal pieces. Gives it a nice premium look and feel. We have the aluminum tap handle upgrade on this one here. As do all of these. We have the chromes and the copper, the limited edition for our Kickstarter backers. So this product originally came to market through Kickstarter. We had a really successful campaign. Raised close to $1.3 million and shipped out to all of our Kickstarter backers, and now we're trying to get into retailers so everybody can enjoy their draft beer at home. So just place your bottle or can right inside, and then you'll see there's a tube hanging down there, a metal tube. The bottom is clear so that you can see the tube and kind of guide it right into the neck of the bottle or the opening of the can. And that's it. Just close it down. You'll hear it get a little click. Get yourself a nice clean glass. We're using our Perfect Pour pub glass here for the IPA. Typically the stronger the beer, the smaller the glass you're going to use, and that goes well with the serving size as well. That's why if you get a big 10% beer out of the bar, it's usually going to be like an 8 to 10 ounce pour. So get your clean glass. I'm going to give it a rinse to wet the inside of the walls a little bit, to prevent any over foaming from any oils, grease, or residue or dust inside. Will create nucleation sites for foam to form, and we don't want to over foam during the pour, because this device will actually give us the ideal head of foam after the pour. So I'll show you what I mean by that. Hold your glass right up under the faucet at a 45-degree angle. Don't want to get the faucet wet though, so don't dunk it in the beer. Push the tap handle forward. It's going to dispense beer at a controlled flow rate under pressure. It's actually got a flow meter inside, and it's going to count up to about 10 ounces and then automatically shut off for us, so we know when to switch over to foam. So what I'm going to do now is hold it upright, and we're going to push backwards this time. This is going to top our beer off with what we call micro foam. And again, that's going to auto shut off for us, so we don't put on too much foam. You can always put on more foam if you want. It just resets back in the upright position. There's a little bit left in there for you to be able to top off with foam. Maybe you can do later on as you go. But you can see these bubbles are super tiny. It makes a nice, dense, creamy layer. We're not using any external CO2 or nitrogen or additives to get this foam. We're actually using patented sound wave technology. So technology and beer makes for a great presentation, good lacing on the glass. It's a nice hazy orange, almost some amber, copper hues to it. Big citrusy aromas. I think this was dry hopped pretty excessively with citra hops, which are pretty popular now in the craft brewing industry. But that smells great. You can smell a little bit of the caramel malts in there. There's some sweetness I can detect a little bit already. But with a head of foam like this, it helps to release more of those aromas, because what we're doing with the tiny bubbles is we're shrinking the bubbles down, and that's increasing the surface area. And all those volatile aroma compounds, the esters and phenols produced by the yeast, the hop oils, which the idea of adding hops in the fermenter, like dry hopping, the whole idea is to get those hop oils trapped into the liquid, because they're very volatile. So when you pour it out, they're escaping, and that's what you smell. And I'm smelling these citrusy, almost fruity aromas. That's coming from those hop oils. A little less so from the yeast, but so we're getting increased aroma. And when you have increased aroma, that also enhances the perception of flavor. Think about if you have a cold, you have trouble really tasting and appreciating some of your favorite foods. This is kind of the opposite effect of that. You're getting blasted with even more aromas than you would from a traditional hand pour, because that really is the other alternative. If you're not using a Fizzics system, you're either drinking from the can or bottle, or you're doing a proper pour, which I'll show you in the next beer. We'll do a side-by-side comparison of what the foam looks like, and visually, and you can't recreate the type of foam that you get from the Fizzics weight tap system, and it serves a purpose. It doesn't just look great. You can see you're getting some nice rings around the glass. That's an indication that you're using a beer clean glass. That's a good sign. If you're out at a bar and you see rings forming after each sip, that means that they know how to clean their glassware. On the other side of the spectrum, if you see small bubbles clinging to the inside of the glass, that's a sign that the glass is not clean, which might mean there's some residual oils or lipids or dust, or maybe that didn't properly air dry. That's gonna make those bubbles cling to the inside. There's a few ways you can test to see if your glass is beer clean. You can do what's called the sheeting test, which is where you dunk your glass into water and then pull it out with the heel first, and then if the water kind of all comes out in sheets, then that's clean. But if there's spotchiness, that's where there's some residual oils or greases in there. So I specifically said beer clean instead of just clean, because there's different standards when you're talking about beer. Certain detergents you can't use when you're cleaning beer. I mean, at home it's fine, just make sure it's rinsed out. But if you're going to like a bar, they either use washing machines that are so hot that they don't even use detergent, like at pasteurization temperatures, and it just cleans the glasses. You're not supposed to wash your beer glassware in the same time with like milk or any other beverages like that. Again, because of the oils. That's also a foam killer. So like lipstick, stuff like that, that'll kill your foam as well. But yeah, great beer. You can see we're getting awesome head retention out of this. With my IPAs, I like to do some nice sharp cheeses here. Got some cheese. One you wouldn't think of, an unlikely pairing for a dessert with an IPA is a carrot cake. It actually works really well. Give it a try. And if you like spicy foods and you like that heat, this will kind of turn it up a notch. So like Indian foods, spicy curries, that's also good with IPAs. Come back to that one, let's move it on. So in between beers, not a huge deal to give it a rinse. You can always do that if you want, especially if you're going from really opposite beers on the end of the spectrum, but just make sure you give your system a rinse out when you're finished with it for the night, because beer is a food product and you don't want to leave that residual sugar sitting out in your pipes, because all sorts of bugs will find it start to grow some bacteria or molds or anything. So definitely give it a rinse and you'll be good. So this next one is called Fireside Chat. It's an English-style stronger ale, and it's brewed to be a winter warmer. It's their winter seasonal beer from 21st Amendment Brewing Company, located in San Francisco. It's got FDR on the front of the can there, sitting by the fireplace, enjoying is that a pipe or a cigarette or something? There's a little elf on the side showing you that it's their winter seasonal. It's 7.9 ABV. 45 IBUs, international bitterness units. They use an ale yeast in this, and they add cocoa nibs and spices, which they don't tell you. I'll see if I can decipher those. And hops, they use Magnum and Goldings, and malts, pale malt, Munich, wheat, crystal, aromatic, chocolate malt, and deep bittered black. So quite a lengthy grain bill there. I'd expect to be some really complex malt flavors and aromas coming through. Winter warmers are typically on the maltier side, so we're going from a hop forward or a hop balanced beer in this one here to kind of the other end of the spectrum. Seal it up. I think I'll go with the snifter for this one, because this is the glass I like to picture when you're sitting down by the fire having a stronger beer. So I'm gonna hold it, same deal, 45-degree angle. And yeah, for this one, let's do a side-by-side comparison. So I'll top this off with some foam. And then with some left in the bottle, until this technology, the only way to enjoy this beer would be just drink it like that, which, beer like this, it's not really one I want to drink straight out of the can. If you can't get to 21st Amendment, enjoy it on draft or have it on draft at a bar in season, then you're not out of luck. You can still get it on draft. So we're going to pour down and then in the middle with vigor to create some head of foam. So right off the bat, you can see that the bubble sizes are different. Over here with the hand pour, the bubbles are varied sizes. If you see from that overhead view, there's some really big bubbles there. And what they're going to do, starting right away, is start collapsing on the smaller bubbles due to gravity, and they're all going to quickly dissipate, and then the foam disappears. And why does it matter that the foam disappears? Well, foam's doing a lot of things for you, for the enjoyment of your beverage and the preservation of the CO2 content of the beer, which is closely tied into the body of the beer that the brewer establishes. So they put in a certain amount of volumes of CO2 into the liquid, and ideally you have that same volume from the first sip to last. You can see the foam's already gone on here, so this is a pretty great example of the head retention effects of a Fizzics pour. So this lasted 30 seconds, not even, maybe a minute, and then the Fizzics pour here is going strong. Let's see what kind of aromas we can get. Yeah, big contrast from the last brew. I smell some Smells like figgy. There's some chocolate. They definitely added some cocoa nibs into this one. A little clovey. Maybe that was one of the spices they used. Potentially some allspice. It's got a nice reddish hue to it if you hold it up in the light. Yeah, this is definitely in season. I would pair this up with any Christmas time desserts. This could be a kind of a standalone sipper, but we have some figs, some chocolate fig cake here. Thought that would go well with the malt that we're working with. It's a nice spice blend. It's not overdone, and if anybody, you talk to brewers about adding spices in beer, you definitely want to be careful. If you can't really pick it out, it's kind of a good thing. You don't want it to be in the forefront and really take over the beer. It should be very subtle. It should make you kind of wonder, like, what is that? You know, it's a lot of Belgian brewers. They have a lot of the yeast gives it nice spicy characters, so people sometimes think those beers are spiced, and sometimes they are. But you want to have a gentle hand when adding spices. Pretty easy drinking. There's no real alcohol warmth on this. I'm sure if you sat down and had the whole glass, you'd start to get a little bit of that warming, but really easy drinking. It's not too sweet, definitely a malt balance. Some caramel, really smooth, clean beer. Nice, you can see it, still got the foam there. So that blanket of foam, in addition to trapping the CO2 or preventing the CO2 from escaping, it's also, it's gonna blanket all the way down. It gives you a nice creamy, smooth mouthfeel and texture. If you try a big gulp of a beer with poor quality head of foam, then sometimes it can be a little off-putting or stringent or grainy, whereas this foam is welcoming. It can be really smooth, take an edge off. I think it really adds to the beer, and the mouthfeel is usually the obvious thing that people notice when they try a beer poured by hand and then the Fizzics pour. The first thing people notice is that mouthfeel on it. It really does help. So, on to the next one. I haven't had this beer yet. This is called Guinness Antwerpen. Little background on this one. It was after World War II. It really wreaked some havoc on the Belgian brewing industry, and Guinness brewed this beer to export to Belgium. That was the original intent of this beer, and it's brewed very different from their classic stout that we all know. It's probably more comparable to the foreign extra stout, but it's stronger. It's 8%, and it's got a little bit less hops, more malt focused, still creamy, still on the lighter side. But yeah, this is for a limited time. It's available in the U.S., so I had to give it a try. And Guinness is known for having their creamy head of foam, which they use nitrogen to accomplish. And you'll see what kind of head of foam. Let's do a side-by-side with this one too. You'll see what kind of head of foam you get using the Weisse tap. No nitrogen being used here. Beautiful. A nice tan color gives it a nice, rich, creamy look to it. Very inviting. So right off the bat, look at the size comparison of the bubbles. What it does is when you take a sip, it's registering in your brain with cranial nerve number 5, your trigeminal nerve. It processes physical sensations and perceives it as taste. Example is if you have a hot pepper, it kind of brings that heat And if you have a mint, it brings that cooling sensation. When you take a swig of the foam on this side, could be a little bit grainy, could be bitter or off-putting to someone, whereas the foam over here registers as being pleasant, as smooth. Take another sip, but wow, that head is just sticking around for the long haul. First thing I got here was butterscotch. It definitely smells way different than the dry Irish stout that is so common. This one is bigger on the malt end. Still quite light. You do taste more caramel, a little bit of a smokiness to it. That's yummy. Doesn't really drink like 8%. It's pretty good. I like this one. So we've got some cocoa dusted truffle here. Let's see how that goes. With your Guinnesses, check out their website. They have recipes that you can use for brewing or cooking with Guinness. There's a lot of cool recipes on there. Guinness stews, braising meat with Guinness is a common one. But yeah, I would say that a lot of the there's some similarities there with the malt with the original Guinness, but this is stronger. I would compare it more to the foreign extra stout, which is originally brewed to ship longer distances. So when you increase the alcohol content, or if you increase the bitterness from the hops, it has kind of some antimicrobial properties. So it helped the beer to survive longer on longer journeys by boat. So even to this day, the foreign extra stout styles are really popular in the Caribbean, which was some of the, you wouldn't think because of the hot weather and it's a bigger, darker beer, but they're still really popular there today. And I think Guinness, the foreign export stout, is like, the amount that they sell to the Caribbean is nuts. They drink that stuff up.
You have a question from Charlie Fisher.
What you got, Charlie?
Is it worth having both the original Fizzics and a Weisse tap?
Yes, I have them both sitting on my counter. I've got my Nespresso machine, my Fizzics Weisse tap, and then my original Fizzics. But the answer is, yeah, I use a lot of growlers and larger format bottles as well. A lot of craft brewers are making their specialty beers in these. So if you find yourself who's one who likes to try the bombers or the special format or special release beers, if you get a lot of those and you want to really appreciate them with the head of microfoam, then I say it's definitely worth the investment to see if you can get both. We sell carrying cases for the original Fizzics system as well. It's also very lightweight. And yeah, I would say get both. I'm a little biased, but I would say that it's pretty awesome. I love the original Fizzics. I should mention I'm wearing a shirt here, True Craft BBQ. So these guys are awesome. Check out their Instagram page. They do a lot of grilling and BBQ and smoking meats, and if you're into that, they're also really into beer. I think they do some home brewing, and anyway, they sent us these t-shirts, some glasses. They actually sent us the last beer we're going to drink here today, which is the Dogfish 120 Minute IPA. And you can see there, that's a 2013. So typically you don't age hoppy beers like Imperial IPAs like this one is, but as you can see on the label there, it says age as well. Kind of a unique situation there because it is so strong. It ranges from 15 to 20% alcohol, which is pretty crazy. Based on the vintage, this was 2013. Let's see if it has the ABV on here. Somewhere in that ballpark. Let's call it 18. But I've actually done a vertical tasting of this beer at the brewery itself. And what I mean by vertical tasting is you try 4 different vintages in a row to kind of give you the experience of seeing how a beer can develop over time. And typically what you see with beers when you age them or if you cellar them, which is starting to become a pretty popular thing, not just with personal cellaring at your, in your basement or your garage, but restaurants and bars are starting to get some different vintages of specialty beers, just like they would with wine. And certain beers age better than others. Typically, you're going to want the ABV to be higher if you're going to age them, and the malt-forward beers tend to age and develop better. But this is a little unique one. But over time, the hop flavor kind of deteriorates, takes a back seat. More of the malt flavors can come to the forefront. There can be some kind of overlapping and melding together of flavors. You want to exclude any oxygen from the package, but there's always a little bit, whether it's a couple parts per billion of oxygen in there, and sometimes over time that oxygen can develop flavors which can be pleasant with certain beer styles like sherry or vinous port-like notes, or some people describe, and especially with like a big imperial stout or something, that can work out well. But I can tell you when I've had this beer, the older ones definitely were more of the malt came through. It wasn't as hoppy of a taste, but it had some really interesting characteristics to it and stuff you can't really recreate without aging it. And to see it something side by side like that's pretty cool. I tried to pick up the 2016 edition of this to do a comparison for Big Beer Friday, but they released it in April, and I think they were all bought up. This is a pretty popular beer from a pretty popular brewery. They have these caution sign bottle caps for their really high ABV beers, which Dogfish Head is definitely known for. They, I think they set a bunch of records. They've been around since like '95. They have the record for the strongest stout, the worldwide stout, which I think was 20% or maybe even more. But let's give this a shot. So thank you to the guys and gals at True Craft BBQ. They also sent us some homebrew. It was Berliner Weisse with lychee fruit. It's delicious. We all suck it down at the office. All right. Definitely want to drink this one in moderation. Wow, look at that foam. So, high ABV beers typically don't get great head retention. Along with oils, like I mentioned before, alcohol is also a foam killer. But you get a nice head of foam on here. This is foam that you can't even recreate from a draft. We say you get the fresh from the draft taste anytime, anywhere, but microfoam is really kind of its own thing, and to be able to control and be your own bartender at home and really dial in the exact amount of foam and being able to top up with foam as you go down is pretty awesome. So if you are an enjoyer of draft beer, give Fizzics a try. Check us out on our website if you don't already have one. Tell your beer-loving friends about it. This beer you definitely want to have in maybe a glass like this, something with a stem, something this one might work well too. When you see it curve in, that's concentrating the aromas. When you have the snifter, you can hold it like this to warm it up, or you can hold it down here to not warm it up. The stronger the beer, typically a little warmer, you're gonna wanna drink it. Not warm, more of like a cellar temperature, even up to the 50s. Like some barley wines are recommended to drink even up to like 55 degrees Fahrenheit. But yeah, this is a very different smell as opposed to what you'd think from a double IPA being super hoppy. This is, it's got malt is the first thing you smell, almost like a candy sweetness. That's pretty complex. Yeah, it's that alcohol is masked pretty well for being somewhere in the ballpark at 20% ABV. But that's delicious. It's really not bitter. Although, so the name of this beer, 120-minute IPA, that comes from, it's a 2-hour boil, 120 minutes, and they're continuously adding hops the entire 20-minute or hour and 20 minutes, 120 minutes. And that's something that Dogfish Head kind of came up with. Usually you add a charge of hops in the beginning of the boil for bitterness, and then you might add hops with 30 minutes left or 15 minutes or at the end of the boil. Dogfish Head came up with a machine, they made it. Sam Caldrione came up with the idea, and it's essentially continuously doses small amounts of hops over the entire process. So lots of hops. I think even on their website they said they had like a pallet of hops. So cases and cases of hops. So this beer was originally released in 2003. It's released in April and November. Let's see. Some recommendations for pairing for this one, straight off their website, is they have smoked almonds, smoked meats, grilled lamb, ginger snaps. For cheese, I'm gonna pronounce this wrong. Epoisses. It's a French cheese. It's a soft cheese with a rind, and yeah, this is really good. If you ever get a chance to try this beer, see if you can compare it to an older version. But definitely, like I said, some of that sherry, you get some of that. Over time, it might darken a little bit as well. It's got a little haze to it, but I would expect that from the amount of hops that were added.
Caleb wants to know what year the bottle is.
This bottle is 2013. So yeah, it's got some years on its belt right now. So yeah, I don't think I think when I had it, it was a few years ago at the brewery, but I think I had like 2011, 10, 9, and 8 or something like that. I think there was a year that was skipped too, but it's delicious. This is one, if you ever go to the brewery and it's available, pick up 2 or 3, have one fresh, and then save some to compare later. So this beer obviously does change a little bit each year. The ABV given is a range, so can't really predict how far the yeast is going to attenuate a beer with such a high starting gravity, because as the yeast eats the sugar and creates the byproducts of ethanol and CO2, the ethanol actually becomes toxic to the yeast itself, so it's creating all this alcohol which ends up killing it. So it's tough. It's tricky to get a yeast to be able to munch down as much sugar as you put in a beer like this, or extract from the malt itself. There's quite a bit of malt was used to make this beer, but really complex, delicious. This is one you want to slowly sip on and enjoy. But Dogfish Head always does a great job. One of my favorite breweries. Grew up in Delaware, and that's where they're based out of. So they're awesome. Let's see.
James wants to know if Fizzics also refrigerate the beer.
Fizzics does not refrigerate. Although, so Weight Tap is pretty much a single serve. You know, you pop in a 12-ounce bottle up to a 25-ounce can. Our original here, this one, you can put up to a growler in there, and it is actually double walled and insulated. So this inner chamber actually comes out. So this will act as essentially a cooler. So you can pack in a growler, which I can show you that, and pack ice around the top, and it'll keep it cool for you in there. So it's got a seal, and that'll keep it cool for the lifetime of the growler. Although I don't recommend, once you open a growler, to keep it around for weeks or anything like that, because once you open it, you create a headspace in there, and then the CO2 is going to escape into the headspace, and the beer's going to become flat. So general rule for growlers is to consume, I think, 48 hours after opening, and that'll keep it cool for you in there. But with Weight Tap, you know, you're pretty much going to dispense it right away. So just start off with a cold beer, and you'll be all good. So if anybody has beers that they want to trade, we can get some cool East Coast beer here. There's a lot of great breweries local to us. Reach out to us via email, and we can do some beer trading. We'll have your beers featured on the show, give you a shout out. If if you already have a weight tap or an original Fizzics and you're putting some beers through, let us know which beers you enjoy the most through the Fizzics. Take some pictures, send them to us, or post them on social media. We'll share them. If you're putting off some great pictures, you might get a Fizzics shirt or some glasses sent to you in the mail. So yeah, reach out to us with anything you'd like to see on upcoming Big Beer Fridays. And thank you so much for tuning in. Cheers.